Hi, I'm Ethan Fang, and today I'll be telling you about my summer 2022 internship with Whiting Turner. So during this internship, I spent most of my time in pre-construction, and it was actually a really interesting experience because pretty much the day I started was the day that we got the project, and I got to see how a project goes from pretty much zero uh, to planning and putting the sites together. So, first of all, the where. It was in the DC metro area, also known as the DMV, and more specifically, the project was a little outside DC called Bethesda, Maryland, and that's also where I actually am from. So the project was on a metro station called the Grosvenor Strathmore Metro Station, and the idea was to build a residential and mixed use development on the site of the metro station. So that way there would be more transit oriented development because currently the site is pretty much a parking lot. So the who. So this is really interesting because this project was a joint venture basically with WMATA, which is the region's transit organization, and some private developers. So this made it really interesting because the land was still owned by WMATA, and we had to go through approval processes every single time we wanted to do something. And this made it really difficult and added a lot of hurdles to the project because we not only had to go to just one developer, we had to go through another party which actually owned the property. So that made it really interesting. And let's get to the why. Why would a developer want to deal with that? So, being from the area, down the block from this development was actually a new one, a similar one on another metro station called Pike and Rose, and that is a new trendy area, and a lot of people like that place. And I think this project wants to capture a similar one just a few blocks down. And another big part of this is the transit-oriented development, which is why WMATA and the developers signed this kind of joint venture together. As you can see, this is what the metro station looks like before construction. It was just a big parking lot, and no one could live there, and it was kind of useless. And the idea, as you can see here, is to kind of create a bunch of residential towers and some mixed-use developments to kind of let people live near transit and the metro. So what did I take away? Well, pre-construction was really interesting, especially because we basically got the project like 1 or 2 days after I started my internship. So I got to really see how a project starts from the ground up, making the calls. A lot of the things that I got to do were really interesting. I had to deal with a lot of bureaucracy because of the fact that WMATA actually owned all the land and it was connected with the developers. Basically everything we needed permits, we needed approvals from WMATA, which was really interesting. I didn't think most projects would have to deal with stuff like that. For example, like if we wanted to close the parking lot, we had to ask WMATA, and because it's a government transit organization, it was really slow, and that was something that I wish I knew earlier. And they changed their minds a lot during the process. So they would even maybe approve one thing which would take way longer than we ever expected. And then they turn around and say, oh, no, like, you can't do that, actually. Like, we want you to keep this part of the parking lot open. And the big takeaway was that, like, for me, at least, is that at the end of the day, they had the say because they owned the land. And that made it really difficult to, like, kind of move forward on stuff, obviously, because the developer wants to get everything built as fast as possible, but WMATA, with like, its bureaucracy and stuff, kind of slowed everything down. And another thing was how to get the site set up. So around the time where I left is when we started putting in pipes and getting all the first round of work done for the site, getting the storm drains in. And one of the things that I was tasked on was getting like permits together for the trailers, and that was another layer of permits and bureaucracy, because we never got the trailers when I left. So I guess for any main takeaways was I just didn't think that the permitting process and approval processes were going to be so long and drawn out, and because it took so much time to get one thing done, everything had to be planned in accordance and everything had to be thought through. Like, we couldn't just submit something because it would take so long to get any kind of word back. But overall, I really enjoyed my experience at Whiting Turner. I really loved pre-construction. It was really interesting to see how the different parties were interacting, especially on this project where one party owned the land and the other party, wants to develop it as fast as possible. And we're also, working in an area that is building a lot of these new trendy developments. And it was also only a few blocks away from where I actually lived and grew up. So it was really cool to see my own metro station kind of get built up and finally have something to do there. And yeah.